Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Those Cryptos, where we talk about all things cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. We do this every single week at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. I do it live here from Dallas, Texas. Usually I have my partner, Mason, who worked at an exchange in Hong Kong called Gatecoin, and now he's been moving a lot and traveling. So he's been gone for the past 2-3 episodes, but he'll be back shortly. And like I said, we talk about all things crypto. We talk a lot about what is going on in the news and how it can really affect you. Someone who may or may not be invested in cryptocurrencies, or if you're just curious about how the world is going, the direction the world is going, this is going to affect you. No matter what industry you're in, blockchain, crypto, it's all going to have a massive effect. So good for you for watching. If you are new and you're just seeing me for the first time, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Give us all the likes too, smash that like button. And if you are returning, of course, like the video, click that notification bell, comment, do everything. We really like to interact with everyone here on the live comments. So if you have any questions, anything, just reach out. So today we have a ton of articles. We'll do this once a week, so you don't have to do all this, research daily like I do. I'm probably at least 2-3 hours a day just researching cryptocurrencies, listening to podcasts, everything. So I'm doing that for you. We'll do it once a week and catch you up on everything. So first, let's go here on CoinMarketCap and let's just see where we're at. So the market cap is 349 billion. It's starting to creep up a little bit. It's been an interesting time because there has been so much good news, so much. But for whatever reason, the markets have been doing nothing and sometimes even going down. But lately, they've been starting to bounce back up. And so this just, I think earlier today was at $345 billion. So it's interesting. It's going up and it's exciting. And I just realized that I'm not even showing my screen. So let me do this. Sorry about that. I need to just start with that. But I like having the big picture of me at first so I can talk to everyone. And let me rename myself here. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right, so here we go. You can now see my screen. And let me refresh this again to make sure we got the most up-to-date data. So again, we're at 349 billion, almost at $350 billion market cap. Like I said earlier today, it was at 345, 46. And Bitcoin dominance, 37.8. It hasn't changed too much recently. Some of the biggest winners in the past 24 hours, Skycoin, Zilliqa, Siacoin, and Walton Chain. I can't remember if it's Siacoin or Siacoin, but I believe they are one of the projects who are trying to do a decentralized file storage, which is an incredible, I believe that it is the future. It's going to be one of these big projects that have decentralized file storage. Like you have box.com and you have the cloud, you have all these different file storages. There's a lot of cool companies doing that. Filecoin's another one. Walton Chain, great supply chain coin. A lot of the big name projects actually on there. Usually they're small ones. And some of the biggest losers, Huobi Token, MadeSafe Coin, Archain, Cybermiles. So hopefully you don't hold those. Now let us get straight into the news. First off, the SEC, we're going to be talking about for the first 3 articles about the SEC and what they're doing. It's actually, there's a lot of development recently with what they're doing, which is huge. So first thing, the SEC appoints a new crypto chief. Her name is Valerie A., and I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, Szczepanik. I don't know where she's from or her ethnicity, where obviously I think she is American, being with the SEC and everything. But it's really interesting that this is the first time where they actually have given someone a role strictly. They do have some departments with digital assets, but this is the very first time they've actually created this position. And the title is, this is ridiculous. Imagine, I saw a Reddit comment saying, imagine introducing yourself at parties with this title: Associate Director of the Division of Corporation Finance and Senior Advisor for Digital Assets and Innovation for Division Director Bill Hinman. So that's a mouthful right there. But still, it shows that they're not ignoring this. They know this is huge and they know they need to do something about it. So they're literally creating new positions so that they can regulate these more. But when they were talking to the board of directors at Coinbase, one of the board of directors, Catherine Huan, she says that regulation is still years away. So we're all sitting here thinking that regulation's coming soon. Everyone's talking about it, hyping it up. The SEC is going to deem these things securities, and it's going to happen within the next couple of months. That's what everyone's saying. ICOs are getting shut down. But a lot of people who are big players who are working closely with the SEC are saying we still have a lot of time ahead of us until regulation actually comes. And I mean, think what you will. They have been really focused on cracking down on ICOs. Basically, like I've said, like the SEC has always said, they're more in this in order to support and protect their investors and their citizens of their country. So that is what's happening. They're taking down all these ICOs. But as far as real regulation comes in and saying what's a security and what's not, well, we do have a little bit more clarity on that, because this morning the SEC's chairman, Clayton, he said that Bitcoin is not a security. It's actually a currency, and these cryptocurrencies, here's a quote from their replacements for sovereign currencies, replace the dollar, the euro, the yen with Bitcoin. That type of currency is not a security. So he's saying Bitcoin is not a security. And to be honest, I'm surprised that the price of Bitcoin didn't go up more. Although I think most people knew this by now because there's no person who created it that we know who it is. I mean, it's completely decentralized in some regards with the mining. There's a bunch of miners who really one company, Bitmain, who's giving away all the miners, who's selling all the miners. So they kind of have control of the mining. But for the most part, it is one of the most decentralized coins. And it is, in some cases, trying to replace a sovereign currency, while others believe it's a store of value, that it can be like a gold. And it's not really used for replacing the dollar. So it depends on which side you stand. But needless to say that it is not a security. At least the SEC's chairman doesn't think so, which, I mean, that's a huge, huge factor. So you have to be thinking when you invest in some of these coins, you really have to think long-term. You have to think about the future. What is going to happen if the SEC comes down and says that's a security? You have to have a ton of licenses. It has to be properly put on exchanges, and you may have to have some type of paperwork. You might have to be an institutional investor to get this. I mean, often that's not the case with securities, but still think about how that could affect your coin. Liquidity is going to be huge in this market, and regulation is going to be huge. So furthermore, he said that the majority of initial coin offerings were securities. So he says, see if I can find that quote, that a digital asset where I give you money and you go off and start a venture, and in return for giving you my money, you say, you know what, I'm going to give you a return. Or you can get a return on the secondary market by selling your token to somebody. That is a security, and we regulate that. We regulate the offering of that security, and we regulate the selling of that security. And that right there, that basically summarizes what an ICO is. I buy an ICO from a company, I buy a coin from a company with the intentions of investing in it, holding that coin, and then selling it back on the secondary market in order to make money, in order to make a return. So with that said, a lot of these ICOs are going to be regulated, will be deemed as securities, and how is that going to affect your coin? These are all questions that you need to ask yourself. But there is more. At the end, he said, obviously they were asking him about specific coins, and he wasn't going to say this coin is a security, this is not. But he said, while he gave a clear answer on most of the questions put to him in the segment, Clayton did not have an answer for the regulation of projects which started out selling securities but have since become decentralized projects with no leadership. His quote is, "That's a question that is out there and will be answered under specific facts and circumstances. But we've been doing this a long time and there's no need to change our fundamental approach," he concluded. Now, two things. First off, what he's talking about, this exact scenario right here, the main example that everyone's referring to is Ethereum. So Ethereum was the first ICO ever created. It came as an ICO, and before that, there was only Bitcoin. And they raised Bitcoin in this ICO so that they could further develop Ethereum as a project. And Ethereum was started by the Ethereum Foundation. So that in a way can make it centralized because a company, or it's a nonprofit, started Ethereum with Vitalik Buterin and the rest of the crew. So they started it, they raised Bitcoin in an ICO, and then they gave away tokens, Ether, to all these people. And if we look at this quote up here that the chairman said, basically this quote says that Ethereum is a security, but it is not, potentially may not be a security anymore. It was at the time of its selling, at the time of its ICO, it was a security because a lot of people were buying it too as an investment. But now it has become so decentralized. It has changed in so many ways since then that right now, if you were to look at it, it wouldn't be qualified as a security. So that is the question that is up in the air. And that's what we need to keep an eye out, because that is going to drastically affect the price. If Ethereum, the SEC came out and said Ethereum is not a security, I guarantee you Ethereum would spike up. It would go nuts. Even though this is not financial advice, it never is. I'm just having fun talking about some cryptocurrencies and glad y'all are joining with me. But again, make sure you stay in the loop with all this regulation because it's going to be huge. On the other side of that, the US and America is not the only place in the world. So if the SEC does come down on it, it will probably go down in price. But there are so many other countries that are big into crypto that will maybe positively affect the market and say, well, we don't care if it's a security. We see the technology behind it and we want to embrace it. Now, the second part of what I was going to say is I don't like this quote. I don't like that he says, we've been doing this a long time and there's no need to change our fundamental approach. I mean, what they're following, the Howey test and all these different tests that they do for regulation in the SEC, it is, I forgot exactly how old, but it is so old. I think it's a century old or something ridiculous. So why are we still following that? Why don't you need to change your fundamental approach? Because the world is changing. The fundamentals in this world are changing. Cryptocurrency is about to change all those. So I think we need to have someone who is open to changing their mind. This seems like a very narrow focused way of thinking, which I do not like. So that's going on with the SEC. They got the new crypto chief, and the SEC says, the chairman says Bitcoin is not a security. Now, even more news with the SEC. We're going to switch these around here. Coinbase came out and said, this happened just a few hours ago on their Twitter. Today, we're excited to announce that we're on track to become a US regulated blockchain securities trading venue. We believe this is an important moment, not only for Coinbase, but the entire crypto ecosystem, which is very true. That is huge. So they must know something. They must know that the SEC is looking at these and saying, okay, a lot of these cryptocurrencies are securities. And this is maybe the reason why Coinbase has not been listing a lot of different currencies, such as the ones that have participated in ICO, which is a majority of them, because they said that they're opening, that they're going to be allowing for ERC20 tokens, which are coins built on top of Ethereum, on top of Ethereum's blockchain. And these ERC20 tokens were ICOs, started as ICOs. So with this, you can expect Coinbase to become a US regulated blockchain securities trading venue. And then they release the ERC20 tokens to the public, where people can buy many ERC20 tokens with US dollars, and they can do so legally because they're following the US securities trading laws. So that is massive. No one is doing that. No one is. Obviously, they said that they're on track to become it. We believe this is important. I believe this is going, I mean, yes, they would be the first US regulated blockchain securities trading venue. And Coinbase has always been working very closely with the regulators, which is, I think, one of their best attributes. I mean, some people can say, yeah, we don't like the government, we don't like regulators, all this stuff. But in order for this space to become legitimate, in order for it to legitimize, we need companies to be working with regulators so that it can bring some legitimacy to the space and it can bring more institutional investors in. I mean, that's just how it works. The more money that's in it, the more these prices are going to raise. And then the more interested people are going to get into cryptocurrency. And then the more people who are interested, the more projects that begin to bloom and the more ideas begin to happen. And that's when disruption happens. So keep that in mind. I'm looking at the comments. I see Charles Wiseman. What are your thoughts on what would Satoshi say survey? I think it's an interesting way to look at the crypto landscape as a whole. So I haven't really looked at the what would Satoshi say survey. I'm assuming, I think I've seen it once where it's you literally look at questions and it says, what would Satoshi say? I mean, one thing Satoshi does say in his white paper that a lot of people will say that some say this isn't true, and it kind of depends how you interpret it. But he says that he understands that there's going to be a lot of changes within Bitcoin. He knows that what he put out there isn't going to last forever. And then you can go back to the whole Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin debate. Bitcoin Cash saying that Satoshi wants it this way, and Bitcoin saying, well, he knows that it's going to change. It needs to evolve because, of course, when he made this white paper in 2008 and released it, he knows the world is going to change, especially because it's become so big. It's not going to stay the same for the rest of time. Just like the Howey test and the SEC shouldn't be looking at the same way, the same old ways for the rest of time. So, Charlie, it depends. I mean, on the question, what would Satoshi say? Right now in this scenario, what would Satoshi say? I don't think he would like what's happening. I don't think he would like that the US securities, the SEC is coming in. I don't think he would like Coinbase and these big companies who are centralized starting to take over the cryptocurrency space, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen no matter what industry you're in, no matter what, all these things. There's so much money to be made. And when there's money to be made, either the SEC, Wall Street, all these people in America are going to get in. So hopefully that answers your question. Let me know in the comments if it does. That I don't think Satoshi would be happy with what's happening now. But like I said, more people get into it, more projects arise, and more decentralized projects arise, which that I think he would be happy to see. Okay, so that is with Coinbase. Let's see, I have this little bar here I'm trying to move from Zoom. Okay, got it. Next with Coinbase, still sticking around with them. Here's another tweet by them. We're excited to announce that Coinbase is coming to Japan. Now, this is really, really interesting because, like I said, I think Coinbase sees how long regulation is taking. In that article about the SEC, one of the board members at Coinbase said that the SEC is going to take a lot longer to actually make a ruling on this stuff of what's the security. That regulation is going to take a lot longer than expected. So I think that Coinbase sees this, as they said, and maybe they're saying, well, the US is kind of holding us back. We're sitting here, sitting on our hands. We're waiting. Why don't we go to one of the hottest markets, arguably the biggest crypto market in the world? The Japanese yen accounts for about 55% of global Bitcoin trades. That's according to Cryptocompare. 55% of global Bitcoin trades from the Japanese yen. So Japan is a massive, massive player. And they've always been a big supporter of cryptocurrency, and especially Bitcoin and everything. But recently, they've been putting more regulations on. And this is the whole reason why Binance left. They had some operations in Japan, and now they're moving to Malta. And so it's interesting that Binance left. A lot of other exchanges, I forgot if OKEX, I don't know if they were in Japan, I forgot. But if they're in there, if they were, they left to Malta as well. All these people are leaving in Japan. So why is Coinbase moving in there? It's interesting to think about. Obviously, they've run the numbers. They see an opportunity, and maybe it is because all these crypto exchanges are leaving out of Japan, and maybe Japan's realized, well, we need to get some more business in here. And Coinbase is the perfect opportunity because they, again, work very, very closely with regulators, and they'll work very closely with the Japanese financial system and regulators and government. So very interesting to see. Either way, one of the hottest, if not the hottest market in the world in Japan, Coinbase being one of the biggest leaders in America. It's the biggest exchange. So something to look out for. It'll be very interesting to see how this goes. Needless to say, I think Coinbase has a huge, huge, bright future. Next, crypto startups. So we got two articles back to back about Ripple. Crypto startup Ripple donates $50 million to top universities to boost blockchain adoption. Now, whether you like Ripple or not, I know they're controversial. This is an incredible thing. This is just a very good, genuine thing for the crypto space. $50 million to 17 different universities, such as University of North Carolina, MIT, Pennsylvania, people where a lot of smart people are coming out of these colleges. And so to give them $50 million is an amazing thing because blockchain is so, so huge. It can make such a big impact on the world today. And so why not educate these people while they're young, while they're still in college, give them the resources to do so. And that's what Ripple is doing. And again, whether you like Ripple or not, they have been more than generous with all of their money. They donated some money to a organization that Ellen DeGeneres had, and obviously they had got a lot of good publicity on there, on her show, and they've been donating a lot of money. And it's not only Ripple. Back I think about a month ago, Binance gave a lot of money to some people in Africa to educate others on blockchain. So this is so awesome. I love to see this because it really does start with the younger generations, with really me and the younger generation. So I love to see that people my age and all these other people are getting opportunities around the world to learn more about blockchain if they're interested. Because right now, if you're interested, if you want to learn about blockchain, it's really, you just go to the internet, you go to YouTube. So to actually have universities do courses on these about cryptocurrencies, about blockchain, and to actually give them the support, financial support, that's amazing. It's really exciting. Charles, what are the values that you're looking for in a coin? What is the number one thing that a lower ranked coin needs before you invest? So when I look at a coin, actually, I'm going to direct you to the video that me and Mason made. It's a breakdown of the top 10 things that we look for in a coin before we invest. And we did a really good breakdown. I think we looked at Funfair, which is a coin that is trying to do betting, and it's trying to be a token for not only sports betting, but for online gambling. And neither of us have invested in it, but we both went into it and we looked at it. We did every single step. We looked at their white paper, noticed what to look for. And so I think it would be best that you look there. But the number one thing that a lower ranked coin needs before you invest, I mean, there are a couple of different things, but one thing that I'm a big advocate on, and it's not only with crypto, but with entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur. I own a couple of companies, and it's always the team. The team is one of the biggest things that you can look for. Even if the project, I mean, obviously the project has to be good, but if the project is good, but you have an incredible team, then I think that's a win, because this team, if they're that good, if they have the experience, they can gather more people and they can problem solve. They can figure things out along the way. And that's just how it is in entrepreneurship. On Shark Tank, a lot of the investors will say, your product's all right. I mean, it's good, but I'm going to invest because I'm investing in you, because you're going to figure it out. And be careful though, Because when I say team, you might go to their page and they might have a great team. And then you see that the advisors are these huge names and you're like, oh my gosh, this advisor founded this $1 billion company. This advisor founded this $10 billion company. They have to succeed with these advisors. But to be an advisor means that you literally just got paid to have your picture on a website for the most part. Now, sometimes advisors really are helpful mentors and people that you can call on, but sometimes with these projects, and I'd say for the most parts, an advisor is someone that you pay to say, hey, can we put your picture on our website? And in case we ever need to call you, can we? So be wary of that. Again, I love the team. I think that's a big thing, not only in crypto, but in entrepreneurship. Thanks for the question, Charles. Next, continuing on with Ripple, Japan's financial services giant SBI launches a crypto exchange. So SBI is one of the biggest banking groups in Japan. I just talked about how massive Japan's market is, arguably the biggest in the world. 55% of global Bitcoin trades in Japan with the Japanese yen. Combine that with one of the biggest banking groups in Japan, and you're going to have a lot of money flowing through this. And they are going to be, well, they actually did launch this crypto exchange. It is the first crypto exchange that is actually backed and started by a bank. Now, that's great and all, but they're doing something very interesting, and that is that they're using Ripple because they're actually an investor in Ripple. They partnered with them. They're actually with Ripple, and Ripple XRP, the actual cryptocurrency that goes with Ripple. They said that we're going to exclusively use that as the base currency at first. Ordinarily, all of these exchanges come out and they use Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's the base currency, and that's it. Then they build some more. But they actually started with XRP. You can see here, Ripple XRP is currently the only supported digital currency, though SBI states it will soon support Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash as well. And this is very interesting. I mean, this was supposed to happen months ago, but finally it is here. And like I said, first bank, and not only a bank, but this is a conglomerate of about, I think 60 banks are within the SBI group. This is huge. This is the first time this has happened. Like, I cannot say just how big this is. This is just setting the precedent for all of this. And to be honest, everyone's watching the price of XRP saying, well, why didn't it go up? But there's a lot of people who they have launched, but a lot of people still who are registered and everything still aren't even able to trade yet. It's still very much in the infancy phases and the growing phases. I believe they're probably still testing it, just bringing on people slowly but surely. But again, this is massive. And XRP, if you like them or not, they have been in the news a lot, and it's very positive news. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO, was on CNBC the other day, I think yesterday, and he came out and he said, we expect to have multiple banks using XRapid by the end of the year. He's confident in saying that. And what XRapid is, that is the actual use case for XRP. It is for banks to transfer, it's for a liquidity reason. So if Bank A transfers $100 million to Bank B across the world, Ripple is saying that you can use our XRP token to do that, and it's going to be 30% cheaper, and it's going to be a lot faster. You can do this within seconds as opposed to waiting days, as opposed to waiting weeks like it is with the traditional system right now and with Swift. So they've been in the news lately. It's going to be really interesting to see if a lot of these banks come out. A lot of them are using Xcurrent right now, currently, and Xcurrent uses Ripple's protocol, which is sending. You can send this money from one place to another. You still have to go through a middleman, and it's a lot faster. It's a lot more efficient. You can have messaging along the way from bank to bank, so you can have full transparency of where the money is at all times. It's using the blockchain, or their Ripple's system, Ripple's version of the blockchain. It's technically not a blockchain, people say, but they're using this consensus method, and that is called Xcurrent. But with Xcurrent, there is no use of the token XRP. And lately, Ripple has been it seems like they've been trying to separate themselves from XRP. And maybe it goes back to the SEC saying that these ICOs and a lot of these tokens out there are securities, and maybe Ripple doesn't want XRP as a security. So they're trying to say, well, we don't own it. It's a decentralized, it's standing on its own. And they have come out and said that they're trying to make Ripple and XRP much, much more decentralized by having different nodes, different computers all around the world by different companies, not only owned by Ripple. So that's something to keep an eye out. Again, whether you like Ripple or not, they're in the news a lot recently, and it seems like it's pretty good news. So top 3 current cryptocurrency and market cap, it's just something you have to keep an eye on. Next, let's talk about how Microsoft just bought GitHub for $7.5 billion. And it says they're going back to their roots. Now, GitHub, for all of you, those who don't know what it is a platform for open code, open source software, and open source coding. So developers can go on there and they can start coding a project. Other developers can look at that project and say, hey, you made a bug here. I'm going to comment that and I'm going to correct it for you. We can work on this project together. Or another developer can go on there and say, wow, that's a really cool project. I'm going to help you with that. They can go on there, they can help each other. You can just post your code publicly. So if you made something, if you made some code, you made some software and you want to present it to the world, you can post it here on GitHub and you can say, hello world, pun intended. That's like the first line of code. Hello world. This is my code. Everyone can look at it. Everyone can have it. So here it is for the taking. And if anyone has any adjustments they'd like to make, just email me or comment on here. So the biggest user of GitHub is actually Microsoft. So apparently this has been in the works for a couple of years with Microsoft thinking about buying GitHub. And GitHub was actually looking at Google as well as an acquirer, but they said that GitHub, the CEO of GitHub said that they actually like the relationship. They like the CEO of Microsoft a lot. And with this, it's really not huge news for crypto, but it's bigger picture. It shows that the world's headed for open source and more so decentralization. And so the CEO of Microsoft before the current CEO, his last name's Nadella, and before he took over, it was, what's his name? Steve Ballmer. And he hated this. He hated the fact that you could go on and post your open source that everyone can see it. He said that wasn't American, that he actually called it cancer because he was saying one of the greatest parts about technology is that you can have intellectual property and it's yours and only yours, which I do see that, but we're living in a new revolution. We're living in a new era where everything's being shared and everyone's trying to help each other in order to get the maximum benefit and to get the best possible code or the best possible software there is. And it can also be done a lot faster when you have a group of people working on it. So again, not that huge for cryptocurrency, but still in the tech space and can lead towards blockchain because blockchain, it's open source, it's decentralized, things are headed that direction. And Microsoft, they started off similarly to this. So maybe they're going back to their old ways. Next, let's talk, man, I'm struggling to talk today. Let's talk about Fidelity. This is huge. Oh, Charles, you brought up, just saw in the comments, you brought up another point. Thank you for interacting. I like this. Feel free, everyone, to interact here. I'm so glad you brought up the team as an ingredient for a successful product. I would like you to research ECC because the team there is small but effective. I will research ECC. I don't know too much about them. Obviously, I've heard of them, but I haven't researched that much. So will do, Charles. Thank you for that. Now, this just happened also today, a couple of hours ago. Fidelity, ever heard of them? They have trillions of dollars in investments. They are building a cryptocurrency exchange. So this is part of our weekly game of which massive financial firm is going to open the next crypto exchange. It seems like every single week we do this and there's a massive company saying, oh, maybe we'll make a crypto exchange. We want to get in on this too. There's billions of dollars floating around, maybe potentially trillions soon here to come. Well, we want to get in on the ground floor, and as they should. So multi-trillion-dollar asset manager Fidelity Investments is building a cryptocurrency exchange. Internal job postings have revealed. This is huge. Like, I can't explain how big this is. Everything is just building up to this one point. Imagine the time when Fidelity has a crypto exchange. There's crypto exchanges all over the world that are massive. Coinbase, you can buy any coin with US dollars. I mean, this is just so big. They currently manage $2.4 trillion in assets. And as we saw, the market cap right now is about 350 billion. They're doing 2.4 trillion just with Fidelity. And currently, I actually didn't know this. If you're with Fidelity and you have a Coinbase account, it says this right here, you can link your Coinbase account with your Fidelity portfolio. So it'll actually show your cryptocurrency holdings on the Fidelity platform alongside all of your other investments. Now, with their new system, this new service would allow Fidelity to actually hold your crypto assets directly. So in your portfolio, it'll say you have 10 shares of Apple, 20 shares of Facebook, and 2 Bitcoin. And you actually own that Bitcoin through Fidelity. Instead of it saying Coinbase, you have 2 Bitcoin. It's just there. This would actually say you have this Bitcoin. So that's something that would be amazing to actually, I mean, that's such a huge step, because that is kind of, there's a barrier right there between these institutional investors and everyday investors that are just buying securities such as stocks and publicly traded companies, and then other cryptocurrency assets. So to combine those into one place, that's going to be massive. And then it's going to be the norm. I'm telling you, it seems crazy right now. The internet seemed crazy back then. So many things seemed crazy in their day. But in a couple of years, 5 years, it's going to be just the norm. You're going to look at your portfolio. You're going to see some cryptocurrencies. You're going to see some stocks and companies. And maybe you won't even see stocks and companies. Maybe all of these stocks and these companies will be tokens in those companies. And that's just something you have to think about. This is a long-term play, and it's here to stay. I mean, Fidelity, NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, the SEC, all of these massive companies are getting involved with cryptocurrencies, and they're publicly saying, we're throwing hundreds of millions of dollars into this. This is here to stay. There's a reason for this. So I wanted to talk about that. Next, I wanted to talk about just the overall sentiment of what is going on to say right now. Charles, I see, hopefully Vanguard does something similar. Hopefully they do too. I'm hoping that all these companies do. And it'll actually be very interesting to see if a lot more people sign up with Fidelity. It'll be interesting to see their rates and everything of onboarding. And one thing about Fidelity too, the CEO is very bullish on cryptocurrency. He's a big supporter of all things cryptocurrency and blockchain. So that's always awesome to see. Now I wanted to look at a chart and just talk about the overall sentiment. Right now, the crypto market, a lot of people are just bored. A lot of people, I mean, you can tell just with YouTubes, with on Facebook, just the interaction between people. And I've heard a bunch of people say this who are also YouTube content creators and podcasters. They notice, and people on Twitter, they notice that their followers go down, their engagement goes down when nothing happens with cryptocurrency. And that's just natural. That's how it works. But when it skyrockets, everyone's trying to figure out what's going on, what's the next big thing. And that's not how you should work. That's not how you do it. You don't wait till everything skyrockets and then say, what can I buy in right now? You learn, you educate yourself during these times when it's a lull period, when it's just going up, a little bit down, nothing big. Maybe if it's going down, this is a learning time. And so props to all of you watching right now who are learning and who are figuring out how to make your next play, because that's what you should be thinking about right now. Whether you're adding more crypto to your portfolio, or you're just sitting on what you have, or you're maybe selling a little bit, depending on what you do, you have to have a plan. When crypto goes up, when Bitcoin goes to 20,000, when it goes up to 50,000, what are you going to do? How are you going to play that scenario? Set some boundaries and set some rules for yourself, so that way you have a plan and you're ready, because that's how you can be successfully financial in this market. Now, I just wanted to look at this chart. Like I said, everyone's been bored. Everyone's saying crypto's not going anywhere. It's not going to do anything. But let's look at this chart last year. Let's look at around this time. So this is from February 24th to February 24th of 2017 to June 5th of 2018. And I think it's always good to just look back and to see historically what the price has done and what the markets are looking at. So here you can see here on the 24th, let's see, market cap 18 billion, and the price of Bitcoin, this is Bitcoin's chart, by the way, was $1,170. Crazy to think about. But anyways, it was. But look how, I mean, keep things in perspective. Look how it started going up a little bit. It goes down, and these peaks that are going down are actually bigger than you think. It's just because it just skyrocketed so much here. And we can actually change the state. I had it changed earlier. Let's change it to, let's see, June. No, let's change this to, let's change it to November 25th of 2017. Okay, so see here you can see a little bit better that how, you know, some of these drops were actually pretty big drops. Now, right now it is June 6th, and we're about, you know, right here. And before, this is pretty similar to what the market's doing, although it did have a pretty big drop. I mean, that could be a pretty big drop right there. Its biggest one was in February, but it's been dropping, and then it's slowly but surely coming back up. And then it came up a little bit, and maybe not as much as here, but it's around this time. This is the point I'm making. It's around this time that it started to go up. Still, it went back down up until probably mid-July, July 17th, it kind of hit a bottom, and then it just started going up. So it's always with crypto, it's always the second half of the year that always seems to be the best part. And obviously then after this, it just went crazy. So I don't know, maybe it's not going to do that, but I'd like to think that it will, because it's happened in years previous too. It's typically at the end of the year, the second half of the year is much better in the crypto space. So again, educate yourself now. Start learning, looking at this stuff. Props to all of you. Regina with the smiley face, thank you for that. You're happy to be here. I'm happy you're here, and I'm glad we're talking about this. And what's really, really interesting, actually, even more on a much, much shorter scale, the 6th of every month has been a crazy time for crypto. It's either gone, it's made a big difference in the market, whether it's gone up or down. I should have had an article up here, but I'm going to just type this in right now so I can show you. There was a couple of screenshots that show the 6 pattern. I guess that's what they call it. So here you can see this right here. Let me see. Yep. On January 6th, that's when it hit a peak, and then it went down. On March 6th, it hit a peak, and then it went down. On May 6th, it hit a peak, and then it went down. And then look, on February 6th, I didn't even see these down here. February 6th, that's when it hit its low point, and then it went up. So March 6th, that's when it hit its peak, went down. April 6th, that's when it hit its peak at the bottom, went up. May 6th, hit its peak, went down. June 6th, what's going to happen? History says that it's going to go back up, hit its peak, and maybe the next 6, it's going to go down. Now, I don't exactly understand why this is happening. I don't think it has anything to do with futures. Like some people say, I mean, futures wouldn't have anything to do with that, but this is really interesting. I mean, I don't have much to say about this. I don't do technical analysis really deeply, but it's very interesting. Regina, 6 of the months and 8 for Bitcoin prices. Oh, I've never seen the 8th. So maybe that's another thing. Look at the 8th for some of these cryptocurrencies for Bitcoin prices. Very, very interesting. Keep an eye on that. Okay, last but not least, world's top crypto exchange, Binance, sets a bank account in Malta. Now, a couple months ago, like I mentioned earlier, Binance left Japan, and whether they were only in Japan, they were all over Asia, but they left Japan primarily, and they said, we're moving to Malta because they are going to be crypto friendly with us. They said that they are going to welcome us with open arms, and they are going to not regulate us as much as a lot of these other countries are going to. And that was massive, because then OKEX went, and a ton of not only exchanges, but projects are moving to Malta. And this is the first time where CZ, the CEO of Binance, it's Changpeng Zhao, short, everyone calls him CZ. He revealed the company has set up a bank account in Malta in an exclusive interview with Cointelegraph. This is huge. Binance has 1.47 billion in trade volume. I mean, that is massive. They're the world's largest exchange. So to be pumping all this money through a bank and everything, I mean, that would be huge. In Malta, it would good for Malta, first off, for being so open and being part of this revolution. And it's going to pay off leaps and bounds for them. They already have before cryptocurrency. They were already, I believe, a lot of gambling companies were here. They have a lot of money there. But one of the very, very interesting things is CZ said Binance is now working on developing a decentralized exchange, which we knew, which is currently a big, high priority project. So let's think about this. Binance opens up, they have a bank account now in Malta, and they can have billions of dollars that are backing their exchange, and that can be flowing in and out of their exchange. But the problem with that is they can release these coins and everything, but still they can't reach US customers because, I mean, some can, but if the SEC cracks down on all these cryptocurrencies, then it would technically be illegal for US citizens to go to Binance and to illegally buy these securities. But if Binance creates a decentralized exchange, that means no one owns it, and it's technically not really located anywhere. I mean, the servers would probably be in Malta, but with the decentralized exchange, no one owns it. You're not buying a security from an individual or from a company. So that way, in that regard, it would probably not be deemed a security, or maybe deemed a security, but you can still buy it from the United States because it's decentralized. So imagine a world, and Binance with this bank account, Binance has said that they are very close. The move brings the exchange one step closer to its plans to offer fiat to crypto deposits and withdrawals on its platform, a feature that would further improve the exchange's liquidity and facilitate new investors entering the space with fiat purchases. What that means is that now I can go on Binance and I can use the US dollar to buy 100 of their coin. They have so many different coins on there. I can go on there. I can buy Ethereum with dollars. I can buy XRP with dollars, which you can already do. But some of the more obscure, I can buy Omise Go. I can buy EOS. I could buy all these different crypto coins through Binance with fiat money, with the euro, with the Australian dollar, with the peso, whatever it may be. But again, if the SEC comes down and regulates and says these people, Americans, are not allowed to use the dollar on Binance, that could be a problem. But if Binance releases a decentralized exchange, then there's no holding back, because you can't shut down that decentralized exchange, because what are you going to shut down? There's no one to shut down. It is decentralized. It is not centralized. It's not owned by a central company. So you can't shut it down. And then it's just a free-for-all with so much different fiat money going into these exchanges. And that is going to be the big thing. So last year, when we look at this graph again, around this time, the big craze was ICOs. ICOs were just starting. Ethereum's platform was building, and ICOs got so many new investors into the space because people heard that you can make millions of dollars by putting in hundreds of dollars into these tiny, tiny crypto projects that were literally worth pennies at the time that are now worth much, much more. So ICOs was the big craze. The first time around, it was Bitcoin was the big craze, then ICO. Now, what is it next? That's what you got to ask yourself. What's the next big craze? Is it institutional money coming into play? Yes, I do think so. I think it's that all these different exchanges, with Fidelity opening an exchange, with the NASDAQ saying they're going to open an exchange, New York Stock Exchange interested in it, all these different exchanges looking at that. But I also think this would really blow the top off of everything as well if we had fiat pairings with Binance, and if they had a decentralized exchange. And he said that they are trying to get this, it's either fiat pairings or the decentralized exchange by the end of the year. That's what they're hoping for. So this is going to be huge. I mean, I'm such a big believer right now. I'm such in a bullish state, even though the crypto market's not going anywhere. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm living in my own world, but I think that this space is going to be huge soon. I mean, look at the players who are getting involved. It's enough said right there. And one thing to note here is that CZ, like I was saying earlier, he's been really supporting Africa and education and blockchain in there. He says that he hoped fiat pairing trading on Binance would launch in Malta within the year, also indicating plans to offer the service in Uganda and potentially Asia as well. Uganda, Asia, these are places that cryptocurrency has a real world use case. Because right now in America, we're comfortable. We have our banks. Things go decently. I mean, I don't like the banks. Every time I work with them, there's always some problems, but it works. And that's the thing. PayPal, it works. But in a lot of these countries, they don't have PayPal. They don't have access to all of these different banks. There's millions, billions of people who have access to phones and to internet, but not banks. And that's where the disruption's happening in these countries. So I know that was a lot. Let's see if there are any more questions or comments. Regina, it feels like we're now in the tide pullback before the tsunami hits. Yes, I totally agree with that. I keep saying this is the calm before the storm. And I truly believe that. I mean, this is, and looking at the graphs, this is what it says. I mean, it was similar to like this. Bitcoin a year ago, what, June 6th. Let's see what it was at. June 6th, I mean, Bitcoin was at 2,827. And just like that, Bitcoin went to 20,000. So, I mean, it's insane what can potentially happen here. Again, none of this is financial advice. This is maybe just me dreaming. Maybe it's not. I try to look at numbers, and I'm pretty good at putting things and connecting things together. So you be the judge. You look at all these companies getting into the space and say it's not real. And then you have people like Steve Wozniak who said they want Bitcoin to be the #1 currency on the internet, and Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Square, the founder of Twitter, everything. So everything's coming together in my mind. And I want to thank you all for watching and for interacting. Let's see, Regina said one more thing. And in many of those countries, the banks are crooked, so they deal in cash. Yeah, that's a great point. And just like I mean, this is different in Australia. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but in Australia, it's not so much the government being corrupt, but they're trying to limit a bunch of these sketchy people using cash, because there was a lot going on with gangs and people using cash to avoid taxes. And they are banning purchases over $10,000 to use cash. So you have to use a credit card. So what if you don't have a credit card? We talked about a farmer who's trying to buy a tractor and doesn't have a bank account, but is trying to do this. They can use crypto. And Australia has been looking really deeply into crypto for that exact reason, because it's traceable. This can ultimately bring a lot more money, a lot more transparency to these governments, which is a good thing for everyone, unless, I mean, some people hate the government and they don't want that. But again, I mean, I think we kind of need some type of regulation in order to function as a society. When you talk about cryptos among Gen Pop, do they look at you like you're nuts? I feel like my peers chuckle and think it's a fad. So what even is Gen Pop, Regina? I don't even know which generation that is. But when I talk to people in my generation, honestly, there still are some people in my generation who are like, man, it's kind of risky. I don't know about that. But when I talk to, I would say the more people, so here's a good example. I have a food truck and we serve acai bowls, and we accept crypto as payment. We have a little QR code that people can pull out their phones. They can scan that QR code and they can purchase an acai bowl or a smoothie with their cryptocurrency from their phone. It's pretty awesome. And more people, this is actually how I can gauge how the market's doing. More and more people have been coming up and they're saying, oh, you accept Bitcoin? I was listening to a podcast. I mentioned Bitcoin. I heard Bitcoin on the news. When we first started a year ago, when we first accepted crypto, literally no one, there was one person who purchased their bowl in crypto. on the very, very opening day on our soft launch. But other than that, no one ever said a thing. And now more and more people are coming into the space and are curious about it. Oh, so are you saying the general population? Oh, the general population. I thought you were talking about a generation like Gen X or something, Gen Pop. That's funny. Maybe that's can be the new population, the new generation. For the most part, I mean, yeah, when you do talk to the general population, the thing is, these people don't understand it. They don't watch YouTube videos every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Central Time in Dallas, Texas, going live. They don't watch these things and know more about the crypto space. And they're scared, I think, because it's really intimidating, to be honest, trying to understand all this. And that's one of the biggest problems in cryptocurrency, is that there's such a barrier where there's this idea that you have to be extremely technical to understand any of this. And you kind of do at some points have to be a little technical to understand it, unless you know someone who's really well educated in the space and can further explain these things in a very, very simple manner. And that's one of the biggest things. That's why I started this YouTube channel, because I mean, really, it helps me keep up with all the news, but I want to try and educate. So if you know anything about cryptocurrencies and you want to educate someone, then somehow incorporate it in your life and tell people at the office. It's slowly overcoming. But again, we've talked about how when the internet started, just like now, Regina, people thought that everyone was crazy. People were saying, well, what is the internet? There's a couple of famous interviews with Bill Gates, and I think like one of the famous interviewers of that time. And they're like, I think it might've been even Jay Leno. And they're like, so you're telling me that I can go and I can buy something with my computer on a screen? And everyone's laughing at them. They have the laugh track going. The audience is laughing. And Bill Gates is like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. So if you look at the internet at the time when it was first starting out and first starting to get mainstream, people were having the very, very same sentiment. Yeah, see, you said, I remember I was a webmaster starting in 1998. So you get it. You get it. So you just have to keep that in the back of your mind, because it's really difficult sometimes when you are talking to people and people team up on you. And they're saying, oh, crypto is, it's just a scam. You're going to lose all your money, yada, yada. Just stay strong. Come here every Wednesday to your safe haven, and we can hang out. Because even a year ago, I remember I had my Bitcoin, and I've had it before I cashed out into to buy the food truck. I had my crypto, and all of my friends were saying, I can't believe you hold that. That's so dumb, blah, blah, blah. Facebook's doing great. Look at their stock. And then I have the last laugh. And a lot of these people who were saying that to me, oftentimes the biggest skeptics are the ones who are the biggest supporters, who become the biggest supporters. And we've also seen this with big players such as the financial minister of France. He was very, very skeptical of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And then he came out recently and said, I was naive. I didn't know anything. And for this past year, I took the time to learn and to educate. And now I understand it is going to make a massive, massive dent on our society. And it is a revolution, especially the blockchain, and then crypto goes hand in hand. So you just have to really look at the future and not let all these people get down and let you get down and out. Northern Virginia, the early AOL employees retire as millionaires in their 20s and 30s. Yeah, I have actually, one of my mentors and former professors was like the VP of AOL, and he was there during the 80s, and he sees all this stuff. He has some cryptocurrency too. I mean, it's really interesting talking to that guy, seeing his perspective. So that was a lot of talking. Anyone have any more questions or anything? I'll give it a couple more seconds. But again, if you're new, if you're watching this right now, make sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Like this video, please. And if not, looks like we're going to wrap it up. Thank you all for watching. That was a blast. A lot of exciting things happening in the crypto space. Just hang on there. And I will see you next week, Wednesday. Hopefully Mason will be back at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. And in the meantime, y'all go out there and get those cryptos. All right, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.